Tonight, we're going to be doing the brakes on my wife's van and kind of talking about what happened to lead to where I am right now. We're going to start by pulling the wheel off, getting the caliper and rotor off, and we're just putting on new rotors and new pads because I'm sure they're warped, and there's a pretty gnarly wobble in the steering wheel, and I don't like that. Growing up, I mean, there was me and 3 other kids, 2 girls, 2 boys, and me and Andrew were like partners in crime. So many times, like so many good memories of just doing things at the farm, and it was always me and Andrew. We were probably up to no good, but we were having a lot of fun doing it, and I'm sure it was stressful to be my parents. So some of my earliest memories of like actually working on the farm and making money is, I don't know, I had to have been like 4 or 5. And my grandpa, they lived on the main yard. He would pay us like a toonie or a toonie and a loony, and sometimes give us a Coke if we would go out and in fall like rake up all the leaves in between the tree line. And we did it. We learned that, hey, Grandpa was going to pay us some money. Sometimes got a treat out of it, cookies and a Coke or whatever. So we were always looking to rake leaves. So started money doing that. And then I remember being old enough that I could like actually do like a full day of work, like not a couple hours here or whatever task there. Like it was like I felt legit, and like sure they were not overly complicated tasks, but I worked a full day. I was going to make so much money. Well, I did not. But I was always working on the farm. That is kind of one of the only jobs I've ever had. I remember growing up on the farm, there was this old cow trough, like water trough. I don't know where it came from or why it was there. Me and my brother found it. We sealed up all the holes in the bottom of it with silicone and like a bolt or whatever. We cut paddles out of wood from pallets, and we were going canoeing in the ditch beside the perimeter highway. It was a great time. It was like freezing. We were pretending we were an icebreaker. It was a lot of fun. And then I get home, and apparently my parents were getting calls from people driving by that we were doing this. Which, I mean, we were being safe. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Then again, I wasn't a parent at that time, so I might not have known the best. But we were always doing something fun. I remember going out, and we weren't supposed to get booters, so we would go out. Obviously, we would get a booter, and then we would just start a fire and dry our socks so that we wouldn't come home like wet, having had a booter. We were very resourceful, but lots of good memories. Like growing up on the farm is the best. I want that for my kids. I think it was a fantastic way to grow up and learn a ton of life skills. I remember growing up, we had this lawnmower. It was nothing fancy, and we just took the mower deck off of it, and then we would use it for all sorts of things. We would build our own implements that we could pull with it, and we would go in the tree line and till in between the trees, do some dirt work. Pretend we were farming. We would take oats, planted greens in the tree line, and we would play golf, and we would mow our oats and keep the green in nice shape, that sort of thing. Always so much fun. And when I was 8, I loved coming home from school and going to the field, during harvest time. That was the best. I loved that. And so when I was 8, we had a 1987 Ford F-150. It was 2-wheel drive, and it was a 4-speed manual. And that is when I learned how to drive stick. And I was in the middle of the field would take me like 15 minutes to get off the clutch. I remember specifically thinking to myself, how do people drive stick in the middle of the city? It's just not possible. Good. In the right brakes. But come home from school enough, you keep trying enough, and probably by the end of that harvest, I got fairly decent at driving stick when I was 8 years old. And that was the best, like, because you couldn't drive, and I was just going out to the field, like, they'd be harvesting in it, I'd take the truck and drive over somewhere else where they weren't, and I would just spend all night learning how to drive stick. That was so fun. I always loved harvest. Fast forward to when I was 13, I think that was the year, maybe I was 14, when I learned how to combine, or like got the opportunity to run my own combine by myself. It was a John Deere 8820 Titan 2. My dad rode with me for hours. I was in the seat, he was in the seat, showing me how to do it. And like, dad left and I was feeling confident. And I was actually in this home section that like I live on right now. And so he leaves, I combine for a bit longer. And then I specifically remember turning up the radio because I was like, I got this. And like 5 minutes later, I was going through a ditch. Instead of lifting the header up, I accidentally pushed it down. It was a pickup header, and I remember just plowing dirt. Like I looked like a bulldozer or something. It was bad. And then of course Dad had to come. We had to unhook the pickup head and pull out all the mud. Nothing was broken, but after that, I was always way more careful. And that memory has stuck with me, well, forever. And I think I will always remember that. But then also when I was 13, I always wanted like a quad or a dirt bike, something like that. Like I wanted a motorized form of transportation that I could rip around on, but I was never allowed to have a quad or a dirt bike. So I do see, being 13, the next logical decision was to build a go-kart. So maybe we'll go over to our equipment shed right over there and take a look at what I built when I was 13 years old, and I am super proud of it. Excuse the mess, but here it is. It hasn't run in probably like 10 years, maybe 8. I've got a spare motor for it. I got motor issues on this one. But this is how I learned how to weld, and I learned a lot of mechanical things during it. My dad helped me. He taught me how to weld with a stick welder and a flip-down mask, and I just kind of went to town. I probably spent that whole summer break, like a month and a half, building the go-kart, learning how to weld. I got it running, and then I drove it for a bit and painted it. And I used this thing hard for like 5 or 6 years. I loved it. We got a snowmobile clutch on the back, so it's not just your centrifugal open and closed clutch. Like I think I topped this thing out at like 80 kilometers an hour. And it was great. I used it for a long time. I kind of got too big for it. Maybe I got a little too hard on it. So now I'm just kind of keeping it till my kids want it, and it could be a fun project to get it going, that sort of thing. But this was a really good project for me. I loved this sort of thing. We took a steering rack off a snowmobile. We built our own spindles and our front axle. Like, we built this whole thing. And I learned a lot about finding parts. I messed with this jack shaft chain setup for so long. I had never built so many chains in my life, or using shims to tension it. It was a great project, and I learned so much from it. And, that's probably one of the things that helped really inspire me to keep going with like mechanics and vehicles, even though I'd always kind of been into it, that was always my thing. So the later years of middle school and like high school, I worked on the farm as my summer job. If I wanted to buy something, I would work for it, get the money, and I learned the value of hard work and paying for what you have. But we started working full time, like during summers. You did the crappy jobs. You were the yard dog You had the worst jobs. You were cleaning bins or bagging birdseed, whatever it was, and you learned to just do it, work hard, and just this was your job, and you were going to do it well. I remember my grandpa would always, if we were working hard or did something specifically for him, like mowing the grass, or he would get us to work in his garden. My sister was the top gardener there. He'd pull us in, give us cookies, and mini Cokes. And I loved working on the farm, seeing my grandparents all the time, that sort of thing. Then, later years of high school, me and my brother, I must have graduated at this point. Fresh out of high school, maybe. We wanted a race car. We wanted to go racing at the Gimli racetrack, do that sort of thing. And that is when we got introduced to write-off vehicles. Our race car, BMW, a 2000 BMW 328 Ci. It's also in the other shed. I'll show you that right away. Here is our BMW race car, the first write-off we ever bought. We bought it privately from someone on Kijiji. You can see it got hit in this corner, barely any damage, but it was an old car, so they wrote it off. Started off as a regular nice car, leather interior, and now it's got an exhaust going through the floor and the door and one seat. No windows, no sunroof. It's got some windows, couple lights. We wanted to keep it aerodynamic. I think we shaved 1,000 pounds or close to it out of it. I had a lot of fun. We've modified it. We did a clutch and we put this air intake on that goes straight through the light. But it was not all sunshine and roses. This thing ran really not great. And it had a blown clutch right from the start. I remember going to look at it with my brother. I was on crutches and we're looking at it in the yard. We're like, oh, okay, we're going to go for a drive, see what it's like. We're on a gravel road. Andrew's like, check out this burnout. And he floors it, does whatever he does to the clutch. And he was giving her. He stops, he gets out. He's like, oh, how was it? No tire spin. We see smoke coming from the transmission. And obviously this thing had a blown clutch before we got in it, but we definitely sealed the deal. So we drove it back there best we could. It hardly drove and, tried to get rid of the clutch smell, but we bought it for $800. And this was another one of those fantastic projects that made me learn a lot about mechanical stuff, troubleshooting issues, and we had a lot of fun with it, and I would love to do more with it. This thing at the Gimli racetrack, this is 200 horse. My 350Z is 280 or something. This just absolutely destroys it. It's a lot of fun. And I had always been into motors and vehicles. I loved the GM Tandem. It had a 427 with shorty headers, and I just thought it was cool. And then I kind of started using the 1994 6.5 diesel farm truck, which I love that truck. It was super fun, and it was a stick. And then I bought a 85 K10, put an 8-inch lift on it with 37-inch tires. I had a great time. And I loved vehicles and spending money on vehicles. After high school, I worked full-time on the farm, obviously. And we did a lot of swathing. We had 3 TRs we would run. And I remember harvesting till 1 or 2 in the morning. You could pick up swaths forever. I always thought that was really fun. And you just learned a lot from being on a farm because you do so many different types of things. And you're exposed to so much. But then eventually I went to automotive because I always thought I'd open up my own garage, build hot rods, whatever it was, I was going to work on cars. That was the deal. That's what I thought. So I got my level 1, and then I went back and I did my level 2, and it was like a 10-month program, something like that. And level 2, you learn so much about electrical it is crazy, and I'm so thankful that I went for it, because before then, like, electrical was the last thing that I was gonna touch. I would do anything but electrical. So then I did that, and in between level 1 and level 2, at the ripe old age of 21, I got married to a girl that I rode the school bus with since kindergarten. And then I went to a different school, and we kept in contact, and the best thing I ever did in my life, let me tell you. Fantastic, I'm distracted here. And I put the old brake pad on instead of one of the new ones. So we got married. I got my level 2 diploma for automotive technician. And you know, when you're in the course, they send you for like work experience. And I went to do work experience at a custom shop that built hot rods, and then that is where I got the job, and that's where I really learned like how to weld good, because they built like frame brace kits, and we were doing welding like to be sold to the public. It had to look good, and that's where I really learned. The guy who welded for a while taught me, and since then I have been night and day a better welder. Holy smokes, these pads are just killing me. Get in there. So I got my level 2, and then after that, I went and worked in that custom shop. I don't know, maybe 10 months or something like that. And after that, I kind of got sick of being in the shop every day, working on someone else's problems. And I wanted to go back to the farm. I would drive by fields, see the tractors out there, and I just missed the changing of the seasons and how everything was always so interesting. And my brother was thinking about going back to the farm at the same time, because I mean, at the end of the day, it was always, you know, always the option if we wanted to come back, you know, someone had to take over or whatever. And so we kind of talked about it, and that is ultimately what we ended up doing. Around the same time, we started our own business. And the first year, the business was strictly buying, fixing, and selling written off vehicles. The first big build we ever did was a 3-year-old F-150. I think it was a 2016, with like 40,000 kilometers. And I remember we went to the auction house. The plan was to buy it, and we had just said whatever the number is, you know, we're buying it. So I think we paid like $12,000 or $13,000 for this absolutely jacked up F-150. It was a nice trim, it was a 5-liter. We were pretty excited to buy it, and we remember right after we bought it, some guy walked by, like at the auction house. He was like, "Oh, you're gonna need a frame." And I was like, "Yeah, right, I won't need a frame, it'll be fine." But just in case, we took his phone number. And so you buy a written off vehicle, and then you take it right away to the body shop, and they do a body integrity inspection and just go over it, tell you what you'll need to get it back on the road. And they quoted us a frame. And you could do like a half frame, they could do the work. It was like 20 grand to get this frame fixed. And that was like the whole budget. That was more than the budget. That was worth more than the truck was. So we had to figure something out. Called this guy. Obviously, he knew we would need a frame. He's the guy when it came to buying and selling wrecked F-150s. And so we called him. He had a frame, and we bought the frame from him for $2,000. And then we stripped the whole truck down, wiring harness, brake lines. It was a bare frame, and we swapped it all onto this new frame. And we fixed the truck, I think, for $23,000, and we sold it, and we made $6,000 off that truck, and we were stoked. Like, that was pretty good. Margins were decent, so we eventually started doing Dodge Grand Caravans. We bought, like, I don't know, 8 or 9 of them. We sold however many, and that was the business: buying, fixing, and selling wrecked vehicles. But it was Dodge Grand Caravans. You had to have volume at the auctions. So that's when we started our own business. And then the year after that business, we started it, and we figured we had done how many vehicles. That wasn't the long-term play. It was too much effort and not enough money made on the vehicles. So we started our own, we transitioned the business to farming. And that's when we farmed on our own, with our own land and our own money for the first time. So we knew we had to figure out the transition plan for the farm, the main one. And me and my brother having our own farm was that plan, kind of. We would slowly take on some acres from Dad, but we could pick up our own land, make our own decisions, spend our own money, and really learn. Honestly, looking back, the best way it could be done is start small with a few acres, learn the basics of it, figure it out so that when you're all of a sudden given this big farm, or however it works, you don't piss it away really quickly. But obviously, we weren't a big enough farm to support me and my brother full time and paying us only. And like, I was married, I had bills, so I worked. We farmed alongside my dad, and we still do, because then there's more to do, less people need to do it, and you can share some piece of equipment, or he can pick up a sprayer and I can pick up a grain cart, that sort of thing. So at that point, my dad hired a heavy-duty diesel mechanic with like 20 years experience, but he just wanted to farm. He'd known him a long time. And I worked with him. And having just come out of automotive, gone through all the training, and like, I was really into it, that was the best thing that could have happened to me for my mechanic career and just learning in general. I had always worked on the farm, and things always had to be done quick. We always needed a piece of machinery right away. We were a very reactive maintenance program, and like, it was just quick, fast, get it going, that sort of thing. That's all I knew. I'd gone to automotive, but 10 years of farming experience sticks with you. So then working with this other mechanic, he just showed me the right way to do things. Take your time, be clean, be precise, don't be in a rush. And like, that shaped what the rest of my career will look like. It was amazing. And I had 2 years with him, I think, and learned so much. Fantastic. Can't say enough good things about that. And if you're watching, you know who you are, and I appreciate it. Probably around that time that my brother had got on this new app called TikTok. And he posted a few videos, and he had a lot of success and traction. And I saw that. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I had always tried doing YouTube videos, and I started channels and did a few here and there, because I was always into it. But like, I never committed or thought I could do it. It was just other people who could do it. And then Andrew started TikTok. He showed me that, hey, any random person could do it. So then I started posting like 4 years ago, and now, I mean, it's nothing huge by any means, but it's been fantastic. I've learned so much from so many people. It's taught me how to act and just be calm and normal in front of a camera instead of like being a different person. And that has kind of led to now started to do YouTube, and I've always wanted to. But I never really kind of jumped in, and it was always a figuring out thing until I started doing TikTok, and I figured out that it was about farming. Because there's nothing easier to film and create content about than what you do every single day. And so now I have the perfect family, 2 young kids. Me and my brother have been farming for 5 years now on our own. We have learned so much, but it has been so fun. I can't stress to you how fun it is to be able to make the decisions. Whatever you want to do, you can do. And just trying things and learning instead of just coming into a company that's already been there for so long. They have these practices, this is what happens, and you have all this red tape that you have to cut through before any decisions can be made. So me and my brother, we farmed our first year, and we used Dad's combines. We used all of Dad's equipment, and we paid him a custom fee. Get that one. Brake line's in the way now. So we paid him a custom fee. Then the second year, we figured, hey, something needs to change. We bought our combine, the 595R. Fantastic decision. The year after, my dad thought it was so good, he bought the exact same combine, which also fantastic. I mean, those 2 combines do what 4 TRs would do, and they just show up and work. Instead of the TRs, it wasn't if, it's how many per field are going to break down. It was exhausting. So we've had a lot of fun being able to try things, pick up our own land, and just buy and sell and do whatever with equipment. We tried corn for the first time. We've done canola for the first time in 15 years. Corn was fun. Planted corn. We didn't think anything would turn of it. We figured it would be a write-off and someone would come in and silage it. Then in September, it was like, wow, this is actually like a good looking crop. So September, I had to find a corn header for us to buy. We bought it, it was $5 grand. It had been sitting in a bush for 4 years. It was terrible, but it worked. We used it for that harvest. We finished using it in October and instantly turned around and sold it and made a couple grand off of it, which was awesome. And then the next year we did the exact same thing, but instead of a $5 grand header, it was a $20,000 header. Sold it right after we finished that year and made another couple grand. And it's it's just fun to be able to do your own thing and try things. That's what I'm getting at. But that is how we've come to this spot. And it's crazy to look back on all those little moments in your life that you don't think of. But it's snowballing into something massive, like that wrecked BMW. We could never have pictured that buying that one car would start us rebuilding vehicles to make money on, start our own business. Everything I drive is a rebuild title. There was 3 years in a row where I'd buy a truck, fix it, drive it for 11 months, sell it before the safety expired, and rinse and repeat until I ended up in my current truck, which is a 2008 LMM Duramax. It's awesome, it's sweet. I wanted to sell it before the safety expired, but it's so nice. Leather, heated seats, remote start, I couldn't sell it. So here we are 3 years later, driving it still, and it's been fantastic. I bought that truck 3 years ago for $3,600. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to look back. That's how I got here. And if you're someone out there watching, just go for it. Try new things. Don't stop trying, or don't give up. Like with TikTok, like as long as you're consistent, you show up, you learn from what you've put out there and how people react to it. I mean, you can do anything. It is amazing. The world is at your fingertips. So, I mean, we're almost done the brake job. Well, this is my second side, but we'll get there. But hopefully you found that entertaining. Maybe you learned or took something from it. Either way, I'm going to finish this up. You guys have a good night, and we will see what tomorrow brings.